All right, so what am I doing at this hotel, or actually motel right now? I'm actually in San Francisco for an event tomorrow with some of the largest natural grocery store buyers in SF and in the area. So right now I'm just here about to prep some samples for tomorrow to give out. There's over like 250 people that are gonna be there, and so I think I only had enough room for like maybe 20 full samples. So basically I'm just gonna start prepping some of those. All right, so gonna keep it pretty simple. All we're gonna do is fold some of these. These are just some sell sheets or information brochures. It's got some info on the front and back. We're gonna fold these, put them into a bag. Let me just grab those. We traveled here with just one bag from SoCal to NorCal. Pretty easy flight, just like an hour and a half. And I just need to find these bags. Where'd they go? Oh, did I not pack them? No, I'm pretty sure I packed it. Okay, there we go. Yep, so just here, I just had dinner close by. It was like a half and a pound burrito, but I basically just ate the center of it. Didn't really eat too much of the tortilla, but all right, so let's see. We got two different flavors that we're gonna package in here. So let's start with folding some of these up first. Let me grab some business cards too, actually. But yeah, I mean, pretty much I'm just here to help, you know, because we're trying to focus getting into retail stores this year. We mainly did direct to consumer for the past 4 years now. And yeah, we're just trying to get the brand out there. So I'm just gonna take one of this, one each of these, and just put them in this bag. But yeah, so the company is Krack'd Snacks. It's basically a keto-friendly, low-carb, very low sugar. Each of these bars has 1 gram of sugar or less. And I've been trying to contact some of these grocery stores years ago, actually, when I first started the company, but I don't think we're ready yet. Now I feel pretty confident that we'll do well when we get into these grocery stores. But when you get into a grocery store, that's only the first step. The bigger step is to actually help to move product off of the shelves, because yeah, just getting onto the shelf is step one. And the way that you help to move product off the shelves is actually by running promotions, doing demos in the stores. So when you see people, let me reorganize some of these. I'm gonna fold up all these first. So when you see people doing demos in stores, those are people with some sample cups, and they've got product that they're trying to give you. Most of those people are hired by the companies to help promote the brand and give out samples so people can try it and hopefully buy it. But for us, I want to do a lot of the demos ourselves at first, so that, you know, the person who started the company, I feel like, is the best at promoting the brand, and they have the most enthusiasm when they talk to the customers. And so, plus you get a lot of great feedback from just talking to customers, and they really like to meet the founders as well. So yeah, it's I'm really introverted actually. So when I do those demos, I'm just like really tired afterwards, because I tend to do 2 demos back to back. So for example, we started doing demos at Erewhon since January. I think I've done at least like 14 or so demos. Basically, I try to stack it up 2 a day. So typically from 12 to 3, and then from 4 to 7. So you kind of just do back-to-back demos, and you only get an hour break in between, but that's pretty much, I mean, I scheduled it that way. But that break is basically you just packing up from that first location and then getting ready for that second location. But yeah, so with these SF grocery stores, there's a lot of them out here. And so I think there's at least like 10 to 15 grocery stores. And so it'd be awesome to get into some of these stores. And if we do get in, that means we'll probably have to do some demos or run promos. And so I might have to come up here a little more often. But luckily it's so close by. I think I got a round trip flight for like $65, and the room was like $75 a night. So in total, maybe like $300. I could have drove, but it's like a 6 or 7 hour drive, I think. And I don't have that much stuff with me. I mean, I literally just brought this. I brought all my samples over here. All my friend's gonna bring a table, so that's gonna help out a lot, because I couldn't ship a table over here. But I brought these samples, tablecloth, sample cups, basically everything that I'll need. And so I did forget to bring a jacket though, so it's kind of cold. I basically just brought whatever clothes that I have on and an extra shirt. I'm only here for 2 days. So yeah, I think that should be good enough though. But I wanted to go walk after eating the burrito. I was pretty full, but it's like in the 50s, high 50s. I know it's not that cold, but still it's pretty windy, and I was like, oh dude, no, I'll just try to walk in here for a little bit to digest. All right, so we got 2 done so far. Let's speed this up a little bit. Whenever we work, it's always best to do things in chunks. So I find it the most efficient to do, instead of doing 1 by 1 by 1 by 1, as in prepping, folding one, opening one of these bags, putting in a card, doing these, at least grouping them by task does help, or at least for me, it feels like it's a lot faster. So for example, all right. Whoa. Let's clear this out of the way. All right, so these are all closed. So I'm just gonna open a bunch of these first. Yeah, just kind of going back to the company. So I started it back in 2019 when I was working a full-time job, and I didn't hate the job. I really enjoyed the people that I worked with. They're all really smart, and I just didn't see myself working there for a really long time. And so I started this company because I was on keto for 8 to 9 years since 2013. And so from 2013 to 2019, that's only like 6 or 7 years. But throughout that entire time, I was pretty strict keto. So, meaning really low carbs, typically under 20 grams or less. And I would eat the same exact food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for years. Breakfast was pretty much eggs and cabbage. Lunch was, back then, I did intermittent fasting until 2 p.m. Until 2 p.m. So I wouldn't eat any breakfast. I get to work a few hours. So get in at 9 a.m. I did have lunch at 12. So basically fast until 12. And then I would have a salad with, mixed greens with balsamic dressing, chicken breast, sometimes chicken thigh if I was feeling adventurous or I just wanted some more calories, and 2 eggs. That was pretty much it. And then after work, I'd go to the gym. And then for dinner, I can't remember what I had. But it was pretty much the same meal every single day. And I was on like a diet of like 1,500 calories for pretty much that entire time. I felt really good on keto, actually. I started keto because I was just living off fast food from high school until the end of college. So what is that? From like 9th grade until, 9, 10, 11, 12, 4 years. And then I went to college for 6 years. So for like 10 years, I basically just lived off the dollar menu at fast food places. And yeah, it was really bad. Since I was younger, my metabolism was still high. And so I couldn't really tell that I was unhealthy because I was still, I used to be fatter I used to be a fat kid, but in high school, I started losing some weight, and then in college, I was lifting too, and so I was still kind of in shape, not as big as I am now, but definitely watched what I ate in terms of like calories wise. But yeah, man, just the quality of the food that I was eating, it was really bad. Plus, I was sleeping at like 3 or 4 a.m. because I had really bad social anxiety, and so all I did was I would go to college, go to classes, and then just come straight home. Basically, just play games the whole time until like 3, 4 a.m. I used to play a lot of StarCraft too. And so, yeah, that was pretty much it for about like a lot of my time in college. And so going back to the diet, yeah, I had a really crappy diet. I was sleeping really late, and so when I got this first job back in 2013, I was falling asleep on the first day of work And I was like, holy shit, I'm gonna get fired from this job. Because honestly, I was pretty surprised that I even got the job. I don't think I was like their top candidate because I actually worked with the person who got the job before me. And I'm pretty sure he's the one who got picked before me. Way more accomplished than I was, or way more qualified at least. And so when I got the job, I was like, oh dude, I gotta make sure I do really well here. And then I'm falling asleep on the first day. Literally, our handbook to fill out was like this thick. And yeah, I was just so used to waking up really late. And so I was really tired. And so I never drank any coffee before then. Or I mean, I did a little bit, but not really. And so I went to the break room. I started getting coffee. And I swear I had like 6 cups. And it didn't do anything. You know, when you're so tired, like you're driving or just so tired and you literally nothing helps you stay awake. That's what it was like. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm gonna get fired. So that happened for like that was like 2 days. And then that entire week, I was like, oh dude, I gotta do something about this. I knew I had to change my sleep. That one was pretty obvious. Basically just, sleeping a lot earlier. And then getting up at 8, like 7:30. No, 8. Because I had to get to, maybe like 7:40. I used to try to time it perfectly so I would get to work on time. Spend like 15 minutes to get ready. And then drive for an hour, going from Cypress all the way out to Irvine. And man, those, in the beginning, that commute was pretty brutal, but I got used to it. So yeah, it was just easy. But yeah, going back to that first day, man, I just knew something had to change. So other than the sleep, I knew I had to change my diet too, because I just kind of reassessed everything and I was like, oh man, this is really unhealthy. And so one of my friends, I was at a party, just like a small get together with some good friends. And one of my friend's cousin was talking about this new diet that he was on, where he was eating meat, eating all this fat, just like eating really fatty cuts of meat, like brisket, and just almost drinking fat. And he said he was losing weight, he felt amazing, and it kind of cured his asthma. And then he told me about this thing called the ketogenic diet, or that he was on keto. And I was like, man, I don't know what you're doing, but this sounds crazy. But he swore it worked. And so that night, I went to research it, and lo and behold, it was prescribed for kids with epilepsy because it helped them, it helped cure or help resolve some of their issues. And so I was like, okay, there's actually a reason why people do this diet. And so my diet was really shitty. So I was like, all right, let's try it. What is there to lose? Because my diet was so bad at that point. And so, yeah, I started Googling things, going on Reddit to find out, how do you do keto? What is it about? And so back then it was all about, making sure you have to be less than 20 grams of carbs. You can't eat too much protein. It's got to be basically all fat. So it was like, I remember when I started, I think I was eating 70% of my calories was in fat. So if let's just take an average 2,000 calorie a day diet. So 1,400 of those calories would be from fat, and only 25% of it would come from carbs. and only 5% of it would come from, no, I'm sorry, 25% will come from protein and only 5% will come from carbs. And so, and the carbs should be under 20 grams of carbs. So I went from eating, again, just a bunch of fast food, which was probably mostly carbs, a lot of fat, minimal protein, completely switched it into, very minimal carbs. And I felt pretty crappy the first few weeks because I didn't know about this thing called the keto flu, which is what happens when your body suddenly stops getting carbs, and so your body doesn't have any fuel because for people who eat carbs, if you're not in a state of keto, you're using carbs as your main source of fuel. And so when you switch over, now that you don't have carbs, your body has to get used to using fat as its main fuel source. And so yes, there's the dietary fat that you're eating, but I don't think it gets used up as efficiently, at least not initially, as carbs does. And so your body's trying to get adjusted to not having any carbs and just running off of fat. And so, man, in the beginning it was really hard because I wasn't used to eating that much fat. I would start eating a lot of fatty cuts of meat, so like eating lots of ribeye, eating all the fat that's on there, any sort of fat that was rendered off. I would drink that off the plate too. And you feel really queasy because you're just not used to eating all that fat. But after some time, you get used to it. And when you're in a full state of ketosis, if you do it properly, it should take less than a week to get in keto. But you can bypass a lot of the negative symptoms by making sure you get your electrolytes in to kind of mitigate some of those side effects. And so after that, man, I could work I used to get really tired and groggy by like 11 a.m. So basically working like 2 hours, I would feel tired already. But being on keto, more so than any sort of weight loss, it was more so the mental clarity that I got. It was a game changer. I could work until like 6 or 7 p.m. and still feel like I'm fresh as I did in the morning. So we used to have a lot of like midnight deadlines, and so you're working from 9 a.m. till 12 a.m. the next night. It wasn't that often, but maybe once every like 2 months or so, if you have a deadline on a big case, you would get that. And so even on those days, I would just drink 1 cup of coffee, and just because I'm in a state of ketosis, you never feel any sort of crashes, and you have just like sustained energy and mental clarity the whole time. And so that was a huge bonus. I don't think I would have performed as well as I did in my job if I wasn't on keto that whole time. I mean, now in hindsight, I probably could have weaned off into doing more low carb, but I think I still would have needed more breaks in between. Yeah, back then, like even now, I'm still pretty low carb. I'm for sure under 100 every single day, maybe like around 50 on average a day. But even then, like, so I wake up at around 6:30. I get to work over at Starbucks by like 7 a.m. And I'm working till like 2 with minimal breaks in between. So what is that, 5, 6, 7 hours? After that, I'm like, oh, I'm basically done for the day. I'm just so mentally drained. But when I was on keto, I could just keep on going. So that was one of the biggest benefits of keto, and that's why I stayed on for so long. Other than that, I mean, one of the side effects, or not side effects, but another added bonus was that, you're just not really that hungry. You don't get those big energy like increases and dips because your body gets pretty kind of sustained energy because you're not eating any carbs, so your blood glucose doesn't spike at all. But yeah, so because of keto, I felt good mentally, but I also did lose some weight. Most of it, I mean, yeah, you can lose a lot of weight on keto, but honestly, most of the weight that I lost was because of being on such a big caloric deficit. And man, I shouldn't have been on that deficit for as long as I did. Again, I was on that deficit for so long, and I was looking back at a lot of my blood results, because when I had health insurance from the company, I get my blood test every 2 months or so, and looking at my testosterone levels when I was in my mid-20s, it was in like the 100 or the 200s, and that's because of I was in such a big caloric restriction. My total cholesterol was really high, my LDL was really high, but my HDL was really high as well, and my triglycerols were also really low. And so I wasn't honestly too concerned about my cholesterol. It does run in the family, so it is something that I should kind of be careful about. But I mean, other than that, yeah, that testosterone was so low, and at the time I didn't really even think about it. And so I was working out really consistently. I just never made any gains because I just wasn't feeding my body. And so I was on keto until 2021, but throughout that time I tried everything in terms of like snacks and sweets. Man, back in 2013, the only keto-friendly snack you could get, honestly, that everyone on Reddit and Google was talking about, where it's like, okay, this is like the holy grail, it was basically Quest cookie dough protein bars. And so I just had those in my drawer the whole time. That was like, basically, it was like eating dessert, because you didn't eat anything sweet. At least initially, like back then, there just wasn't anything out there really. I mean, there were like keto bars and the Keto Bar Company, sugar-free snacks, which had maltitol in it. I mean, they still do, but back then, like, no one really knew, or it wasn't common knowledge, or sorry, not even common knowledge. It wasn't as known as it is now that maltitol, yeah, it's not really a sugar, so all these sugar-free companies include it in their snacks. So like Hershey's or Reese's or whatever, anything that's touted as sugar-free. Yeah, technically it's not literally sugar, but there's so many different names for sugar that a company can call something sugar-free but still have ingredients that spike your blood glucose. And so it's really dangerous, especially for people with diabetes, because they think that they're eating something that's okay for them to eat, but it has, let's say, maltitol in it. And I think it's either similar or worse blood sugar spikes than sugar. And so you're eating these foods that you think is safe for you, which I thought some of the sugar-free snacks were safe for me while I was on keto. And then I get kicked out of keto, and I know, because I gained like a few pounds of weight just overnight, and you just kind of look poofing, and it's like, you're just like, what the heck happened? And it's because you had a bunch of carbs from something that you didn't think was actually carbs. And so I had those kinds of snacks. So I would eat a lot of like sugar-free, like gummy bears, sugar-free chocolate. And then I realized the hard way that, okay, these weren't actually keto-friendly or sugar-free. And then I had all the keto-friendly snacks throughout that time. Like, honestly, anything keto-friendly that came out, I tried it, and it just was either not good. So either the taste or the texture. I mean, when it comes to the taste, there's you guys know the aftertaste. You know that something's kind of funky. And it's typically back then, a lot of companies didn't know how to formulate with stevia, or there was all this erythritol. So you'd get this like cooling sensation. It's like a really quick hit of sugar or sweetness, but it disappears. And then when you're done eating it, you have like this lingering weird sweetness, and that's from the stevia. That initial quick hit of the sweetness, that one comes from erythritol. And so anything with like tol, so like even xylitol, those are the sweeteners that leave like a tingling sensation. And yeah, I tried all of those. None of them were good. Either the taste is weird, or typically the texture is also really weird. It's either like too chewy, too chalky, or like spongy in a weird way. I mean, over the past few years, a lot of brands have gotten better. For example, I think Legendary protein Pop-Tarts, that's actually a decent snack for when you're on keto. If you need something sweet, I mean, like Nix bars, those aren't bad, but there's a lot of erythritol and stevia in those. But yeah, just in general, everything's getting better. But I still honestly wasn't happy with what was out there. And so in 2019, coming all the way back to 2019, when I went to a Whole Foods after the gym and I bought something that Reddit was saying, oh dude, these are the best. I bought those. I was super excited. I went to the car, I tried it, and I was so disappointed. I was like, seriously, how are they selling this in all these different stores? And I was just kind of honestly dumbfounded. And I was like, man, I know we can make something better for the keto community. I was like, is this really it? Because like, from all the different recipes that I found and tested out through just a bunch of people on Reddit and Google, there was some good stuff out there. And so I knew something better existed, or something better could be made. And so that's when I started thinking, okay, like literally that weekend when I was so dumbfounded by that snack that I had, I went to a Starbucks, I looked up how to start a business, and I started looking up what could I make that makes keto feel a lot easier. Because something that I didn't mention before, but you guys already know, if you've been on keto, it's a really hard diet to sustain just because you're so restricted on what you can eat. Plus, it's a new way of eating. I feel like it's too much of a shock to your habits, where you're just used to eating whatever. Maybe you're not as mindful of what you eat. And so when you're going from being able to eat anything, or just going from eating anything to like, okay, now this is all you can eat, it's really difficult. And so some people, you just willpower through it for like weeks or months at a time. But then as soon as you get off of it, or you do it, and typically the cravings for carbs or for sugar, it gets so intense that you end up breaking that diet, and you just end up losing all that progress. I actually went through that several times throughout the 8 to 9 years that I was on keto, from 2013 to 2021. But what really helped was when I could find like a keto snack that actually kind of held me over, where it satisfied my sweet tooth, and I would feel like, oh, like that was a dessert. So for example, going back to those keto bars, man, just after being on keto for like a week or two, within a week, you're like, I want some sugar. I need something sweet, because everything back then is just salty, 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 salty. So you're eating a lot of meats, eggs, veggies, just low carb veggies. And when you want a snack, it's like you're just, at least back then, it was like, okay, you can have some pork rinds or some nuts. Those are all savory. There weren't really sweet nuts you can have. And so I would end up basically just binge eating on all the different sweets that I was craving. So it could be like a Snickers bar, Reese's cups, ice cream, donuts, all that stuff. Man, I used to buy donuts for the office, and maybe once every like month or so. And I look forward to it because I was like, okay, once a month I'll cheat. And so I used, I used to not want to eat a whole donut. Plus I got a lot of different flavors. So I used to cut it into like quarters, just have like one of each flavor. But I'd be in there for like 10, 15 minutes just cutting these donuts and eating it. And yeah, like I realized over time that those sugar cravings are really what hindered any sort of progress that I made on keto. And it would have been a lot easier to be on keto if I, oh, only 3 more left, pretty much all done. If I was more mindful of what was going on, as in this brutal cycle of being on keto, feeling really good, losing weight, feeling mentally sharp, and then trying to basically subdue my cravings or just willpower through it. And so just resisting them at all times. But then at a certain point, it gets so intense that I would end up just like breaking my diet. And so you'd binge eat. I gained like 4, 5, 6 pounds overnight. And again, that's because of all the carbs, probably the salt, and your body is just like, it doesn't know what to do with it. Plus, when you eat carbs, water, carbs and salt, you just get a lot of water retention too. So most of that weight is from water, but still you just have to, once you get kicked out of keto, you kind of have to go through that process again of depleting your body of carbs so that your body can start turning back to using fat as a main fuel source instead of carbs. And so, you'd be doing great, cravings kick in, you have some keto snacks, it doesn't really hold you over, it doesn't truly satisfy what you're really craving, which is something sweet, probably something crunchy. At least for me, that's what it was. It was like a textural and a taste thing. And then you binge eat, and then you just feel guilty, and then you just kind of start the circle again and again. And so I went through that for 9 years, and I realized like, okay, candy or sweets was my biggest, that was my biggest reason for hindering any sort of progress that I made on keto. And so I thought, oh shoot, okay, this is something that I know I'm not the only one that struggles with. All these other keto brands and like when when you're on Reddit or you go into other forums, everyone's always talking about, hey, like what kind of like sweets are there that's keto friendly? And so I knew that was really a big need that we had as someone on keto, or even for people who are diabetic, who can't really eat sugar. And so that's when I started experimenting with, all right, let me try to learn how to make candies. Let me see what all these other keto companies or low sugar companies are using in their ingredients list. And so, every snack, ever since I was younger, I used to look at the labels. Maybe not so much for the macros, but always the ingredients. And so when I tried all the keto snacks, I would always look at, oh, that's an interesting ingredient. I've actually never seen that. I've never eaten it. And so I would just kind of compile this database of like, oh, this company has this kind of texture in their snack, and they use these ingredients. Based on that, I kind of was able to determine, just through like kind of deduction, what an ingredient, why a company used that ingredient, and what kind of textural components it had. And so when I started formulating, I just kind of started with chocolate truffles, which we don't even make those anymore. These are kind of some of our best-selling bars, which you guys might have seen online on Krack'd Snacks or just even on Amazon, or now we're in Erewhon too. But yeah, I was, from all the different snacks that I tried, I was able to use that to get me maybe like 60% of the way there in formulating these. And But it still took me months to fully come up with this recipe. And so, yeah, I mean, that was back in 2019. I came up with these bars in 2021. And yeah, I mean, here we are. It's already 4 years since we launched these bars. And I mean, that's just kind of how we came to be. I don't have that many samples, but you know what? Screw it. Let me show you. This is the one that I'm most proud about because I try to mimic a Butterfinger bar. And this is the one where when people try it, so it's coated in 75% Ecuadorian cacao, which is just chocolate. These ones are actually our vegan milk chocolate version, but this is the closest that you'll get to a Butterfinger bar that's sugar-free. And so it's got a chocolate outside, and it's got a crunchy, crispity, crunchity, almost not quite toffee-like, but it's got a really nice, crunchy, airy texture, very reminiscent of a Butterfinger bar. I'll be right back. I'm gonna wash my hands. Sorry for all the eating noises, but I mean, this is the one where I think we could just have this product alone and have a business because this texture is pretty hard to achieve. And we've tried to see if other companies can make it for us. Because as we grow, we have two options. Either we continue making it ourselves on a larger scale, so we have to purchase equipment, move into a new facility potentially, or the other option, which a lot of other brands do, which is they work with a co-man or a co-packer, which just means a co-manufacturer. So basically they hire someone else to make it for them. So I was always dead set on making our own stuff. I still am, but at a certain point I was thinking, you know what, maybe it's just easier if we hire someone to make it for us. I must have reached out to over like 100 different companies and spoke to a dozen of them. I kind of told them how we make these. They don't have the equipment or quite the setup to make it. And so I know it's pretty difficult to make, so we make all of these by hand. And so I know it's something that's difficult to replicate, and so I'm very proud of this one. Plus, honestly, it tastes the best. Personal preference. Some people really like the chewy, softer texture of this one. But, all right, I got, 2 more left to package. No, actually 1 because I just ate 1. I should have eaten this one instead so that I have a set left. But yeah, I mean, that's about it. I might film myself walking to that event tomorrow. Hopefully I could capture some footage of the event itself. And yeah, let's see how it goes. All right, bye.